Welcome to The Real Dope, a podcast for anyone walking alongside someone battling addiction, based on the powerful book, The Real Dope on Dealing with an Addict, by sisters Elizabeth Brand and Meridith Elliott Powell. Each episode will explore practical strategies, share authentic stories, and provide the honest guidance. Let's begin today's journey and turn survival into strength.
All right. Welcome to the Real Dope podcast. It is 11 a.m. Thursday morning, one of my favorite times of the week, because we're just going to hang out and talk about what it's like to love, deal with, and support an addict. I'm Meridith Elliott Powell, hanging out here with my sister, Beth Brand. And remember, this show is developed for you. We are not therapists. We are not doctors. We are just, unfortunately, people who have had a lot of experience with loving and supporting and dealing with addicts. So Beth, what is on tap for today? What are we going to discuss?
So we're going to discuss ourselves. We're going to discuss how did we get here? Meaning you too, listener. Like, how did we end up devoting our whole lives to just trying to keep sanity in our homes?
I love this topic because I think it's a question that if you love, support, and deal with addicts, that eventually you ask yourself, how did I get here? How did this happen to me? And, I think it's interesting. It's a lot like addiction, is it happens slowly. You don't wake up one day and you're calling the bail bondsman, you've got them on speed dial and you're bailing somebody out of jail and you're paying all the bills. It happens to you slowly. So to some degree, you don't even notice how badly the situation has become. All right, let's start the show.
Welcome to The Real Dope, a podcast for anyone walking alongside someone battling addiction, based on the powerful book, The Real Dope on Dealing with an Addict, by sisters Elizabeth Brand and Meridith Elliott Powell. Each episode will explore practical strategies, share authentic stories, and provide the honest guidance. Let's begin today's journey and turn survival into strength.
All right, let's begin today's journey and turn
So I think what you said before the introduction part was really important. How you didn't get here overnight. We are frogs in boiling water, to be sure.
Yeah.
It's drip, drip, drip. And yeah. So what were those first steps and how did you get here? And as a person who helps people write their books, I would say almost every book, no matter the topic, no matter the client, comes down to the solution to whatever the problem is. I do mostly business books and psychology books, comes down to clarity. And I think as people who deal with addiction in our own lives, and we're trying to get our lives back, we need clarity. That's so we need to look at ourselves and not blame the addiction for everything we do. We have some agency and autonomy in our lives.
Yeah, I was wondering too, like at what point do you first ask yourself that question? How did we get here? In the sense of, like, I can remember it for me like it was yesterday.
Me too.
I was standing, still lived in Garden City, South Carolina. It was about a year after the hurricane had hit down there. And I was calling the bail bondsman. And I remember thinking to myself that I didn't think I was raised to call the bail bondsman. Like, it was just odd. And how did I get here? Now, it was a good 10 years before I started to change my life after that. But that was the first time that I remember thinking, this is weird.
I thought it was weird, like before my revelation to start really looking at myself. And I'd already left Edward 4 times, and this was the last time. And I think I was standing in front of my closet, not knowing what to put on, like worried that if I put this on, it would be wrong. Or if I put this, just crazy, like unable to think. And I thought, how did I get here? All I ever tried to be was nice, because I was raised to be nice, because I thought nice is what you were supposed to be. And I can just remember, how did I get here? But unlike you, I didn't even think to start looking at myself until I was gone from the situation.
So how do we get here? How does it happen?
I think first, for me, I just wanted something. I had an idea in my head of the way life went and the way life was going to go. I mean, I think that's why one of the reasons it's so hard to get out, because you know who you love, and you have expectations, whether it's a child or your husband or your dad. Like, no, that's not who they are. This is who they should be. And I think for me, I just kept hanging on to what should be, what I wanted. I just wanted my marriage, and I wanted this life that I had planned out in my head. And I wanted the person to be who I wanted the person to be, not who they actually, the addiction was overtaking them.
Yeah, that's so funny, because I imagine the journey's so different for everybody. All I did was what everybody else told me to do. Like for me, I think I was so far away. I mean, I married Doug because Mother told me to marry Doug. She told me I was 27 years old and it was time for me to get married. I married him and I ignored all the addiction because everybody was like, it wasn't a problem. You know what I mean? Like I was really the only one who thought, on some level, a little voice in me told me that there was, that there was a problem. And so,
well, I think that is typical for both of us, Meredith. I mean, I married Edward because he didn't drink. Like, he only did drugs, right? I mean, it's like insane when you look back. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, but you always had more, chutzpah. So my mother didn't want you to marry Edward, but you did it. Yeah. Like, I don't think I ever would have done that. Like I was just like, oh, okay. So I had no thought for myself at all, which is so funny to think of now, because I'm so strong and so independent and do whatever I want to do. But it's kind of it's kind of amazing like that.
Yeah. But, I also think that you were the last child. You were more bonded to her than the three of us. I mean, I can't even imagine having the three of us, having a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 1-year-old. I don't even know how she managed her thought or anything. And then you're, 4 years later. So
why do you think, though, given Mother's life, she didn't try to keep us out of that life?
Well, I think she thought she did. I think she thought, well, first of all, she was attracted to alcoholics.
Yeah.
Gotta say. But really good, alcoholics like our father, who was responsible, like, in the early days. I mean, he was functioning. He was a functional alcoholic. I think she did try to keep us away from our grandfather, our father's father, and that kind of thing, as much as she could. But I also think she was a woman of her time, and men ruled, and she didn't. Even though our dad wasn't the kind of guy who was like that, he totally would have listened to her.
Yeah.
But I think that, I just can remember they wanted to put a playground or something in where our parents moved to, and my mother was for it, but they were worried that kids from a poor neighborhood would come over. And I said, Mother, why didn't you say anything? She's like, oh, well, men know more. I'm like, okay. So I do think that's probably why she didn't say more. But I do think she tried to protect us. But I also don't think she thought there was anything wrong with like a lot of drinking.
So what do you think it actually means to say, how did we get here? Like, what does that mean? And like, for anybody listening, what would resonate with them?
I think it's when you start to look at yourself, when you stop blaming the addiction for your problems. And you, like I said, you realize that you have some agency, and you start to think, I can do something about that. And that's why I even like that question. And you just bring some awareness into your life about the fact that you are making choices that are keeping you where you're in a pattern of choices, whether that's like enabling or whatever. Like, you're always cleaning up the mess. and you're never getting where you want to go. And you may even have forgotten where you want to go. And
I
go
mean,
ahead.
I really think that that's a big part of it. I think how did you get here is when every decision you're making in your life is about taking care of someone else or trying to please someone else, whether it's an addict in your life or not, whether you can't remember the last time you put yourself first and tried to do something for yourself first.
And the truth of the matter is that maybe you were raised to think that that was selfish, and that's the least selfish thing that you can do. Because when you are always living up to other people's expectations, you're probably in a stuck pattern in your life, whether you have addiction in your life or not. You keep ending up in the same place. Like, keep up in relationships that are bad, or you keep ending up in a dead-end job with a boss you don't like, or you find yourself in the same place because you're making the same decisions. And so you have to unstick that. And you unstick that by bringing awareness to your life of what you want, and then asking yourself if your actions are bringing that. And then I think in our case with addiction, we have to say, is what we want realistic? And what, of course, I wanted was for Edward not to drink, or not to, yeah, by that time he was drinking, but do drugs. I didn't want him to be addicted, and I wanted him to be a great dad and a great husband. Well, that was unrealistic, and that was not within my control.
That's what I was going to say, is then maybe that's a really good check in it too. Is that what you want are things that you don't have any control. Like, it's interesting to me. I'm trying to figure out how to say this, but it's interesting to me that what we want are things that we have no ability to impact when there's no internal focus at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a recipe for disaster. And you've put all your focus outside yourself over things you have no control over and aren't yours to want or desire. It's not you. It's like you want something for somebody else, and that's not within your control. So I think it goes back to like what you recommended last time, like writing down, like just write down, like I had a therapist once, just write down a perfect day. And then for you, like, what would that be? Like for me, it'd be like getting up and going to yoga class, and then coming home and eating some oatmeal, and then hiking, and then, like whatever that perfect day is. And then write down what your actual days are like, and then take a look at that. And my guess is if you're living with an active addict, they don't match at all.
Yeah. And I wonder too, though, I wonder if a really good step isn't to write down, write down what you want, and then step away from it, come back to it, and ask yourself, why do you want that? And ask yourself, why do you want it again? And ask yourself, why do you want it again? Like, I'm thinking to myself, if all I ever wanted was Doug to be sober, and I wanted a really happy marriage, and I wanted to not be embarrassed about my life. I wanted to not be ashamed and not be embarrassed. And if I would have asked myself why, obviously because I wanted to be happy. And why do I want to be happy? Well, because I'd never really felt happy and safe and secure. And why did I want to feel, why did I want those things in my life? Well, the biggest reason is just because what I wanted to be was safe. Mm-hmm. When I get down to what I really want is safe, and I look at what I'm asking for, is there any ability to get myself on that path? And there isn't, because I couldn't control Doug being sober. And even if he was sober, I was never going to feel safe in that situation. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which is another big realization, is even if you get what you want, like even if Edward became sober the next day, I would never, I feel safety and trust. I have trust issues all over the place.
Yeah.
I would never trust him again, ever.
Yeah. And I think it's important to note that that's not his fault.
No. He could be perfect.
Yeah.
And that would never happen again. And so my said thing that I wanted, and the said thing that you wanted, like this, it was not going to happen with this person anyway, ever again. And both those things, safety and trust, have to come from inside out. Nobody can give them to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that the fastest path to how did I get here is understanding that you quit spending any time at all asking yourself what it is that you want and what you can control. Because the truth is, what I really wanted was a healthy, happy relationship, and I wanted to be safe. I had stuck that on Doug's back, and that wasn't possible. I could still have my vision. Like when I got under my vision, when I looked at what I could control, I could go after those things. But I couldn't dictate that my husband's sobriety needed to become a part of that. And it was when I let go of that I think I found my way out of my hole.
Yeah. And for me, it was getting enough therapy and doing the work to learn to trust my own voice again, to know who I was. So I would present in the world as I was and not just keep shape shifting to what other people wanted me to be or what I thought I needed to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think that's like a really good first exercise is just walk through and try to figure out, what it is that you want. One thing that I used to do is that I used to look at people who were 10 years older than me. And I would say, and I would decide whether I wanted their life or I didn't want their life. And that was really helpful. One of my biggest wake up calls was when my girlfriend, who'd been in as messed up a relationship as I had been, got abandoned at the altar. And all I could think was, I don't want to be 40 years old and abandoned at the altar. And I was, like 32 at the time. And I knew I had to start making changes in my life if I didn't want that. So I think this awareness, there's so much to be said for clarity about what it is that you want and not being married to the path of how to get there.
So for me, it was, and I think I've said this on this podcast before, it was mother saying to me, I mean, I had tried to leave Edward 3 times. The one that stick the 4th time was when I was 37. And she said, I don't want you to be unhappy at 40. And that really started to hit me that this path, though frantically every day I was trying to make this world I wanted, this path was never going to make it. It was never going to be, and I guess that hit me. So it probably is a good idea to think, where will I be 5 years from now?
Yeah.
If I continue like this.
Yeah. I mean, I think looking at that future, it's amazing that we have an unbelievable ability to change. I mean, an unbelievable ability to change. The brain and the body, they can morph into so much of what you want them to become. But so I feel like when you're loving, supporting, and dealing with an addict, you're almost unconscious. I mean, you've had to numb yourself so much that you just take action. You don't even realize how insane the action is because you just do it and move through it and don't think about it. And that's why that intentionality is so important to really get the clarity. I think the one big thing that we did really, really right was hike a lot. And I think there's a lot to be said for getting out in nature and just allowing your mind to clear and to give yourself the room guilt-free to say, I'm not happy. This isn't working for me.
Or just to say out loud what you did.
Mm-hmm.
If you say it out loud, it sounds so stupid, because it is. And it's not like stupid because it's dumb or it's stupid because you're not getting anywhere.
Right.
Doing the things that you do every day, running around, making sure he's not driving the car or if he is, sitting there worrying the whole time he's gone. I mean, it's just wasteful behavior.
So something interesting to me, I wonder about, Mother tried so hard to get you out of your marriage and she tried so hard to keep me in mine.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I think Doug presented as much more responsible. That's for sure. He was much more like a manly man, and I think she thought he kept you safe. I do. even though that wasn't the
truth at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's interesting too, because he was not a country club type. Let me say
No.
that. He was, yeah. I don't know. Whereas Edward was more from that background, but maybe, I don't know. I mean, Doug didn't have a college degree, and Edward, of course, went to fine schools everywhere. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's interesting, and it's interesting what was going on in that head. And I think that too, I think another step you can take, and I mean, I think the first step is admitting to yourself what you want and what's happening in your life that's serving that, and what's happening in your life that isn't serving that. I think really looking forward to the next 5 to 7 years and trying to figure out if this is what you want and this is the path that you want to be on. Because I think the other thing that goes with this, and that goes with this episode, is that the only person who can change your circumstance is you. You're exactly like the addict.
Yeah.
Nobody else can save you. Nobody else can make it better. You can take, and the beautiful thing is you can take small actions. I told you when I first had the awareness, it was 10 years before Doug and I separated. 10 more years before we did that. But I think that in that moment of awareness, I probably started taking incremental steps at that point.
That's why when we started all this, our thing was, how everyone says there's nothing you can do. There's plenty you can do. There's plenty you can do. Can't do it for the addiction, but you can do it for your enabling and for yourself, which helps everybody in your whole life. Yeah, I think so. Once you start this and you know what you want, and you start to bring that awareness into your life, then I think you need to note the activities that you take that are hindering you to get on the path of what you want. You don't have to change them at first. You don't have to beat yourself up over them, but you can just notice, is this helping or is this hurting what I want out of my life and who I want to be, and the thing I want most. So yeah.
One of the things that you told me that really helped me a lot is that I needed to stop. Like, I feel like when you love an addict, you're desperate. Like, everything is life and death, because sometimes it is life and death, but you get very dramatic. And you helped me. You said, just make a decision for today. You can change your mind tomorrow. And it's kind of like in the whole idea of the Alcoholics Anonymous, one day at a time. But it was like, today I'm going to get separated. Maybe in a week, I'll decide I don't want that, but I didn't. And not having to make decisions that were finite. I don't think I was capable of making decisions.
I wasn't either. And I'd be surprised if a lot of because I did the same thing. I needed to divorce Edward, and I did it. I divorced him, but I divorced him with a mindset that we could always get married again.
Right.
Like, let me just preserve this financially, mostly the financial house, and keep my son and myself safe. Let me just preserve this for now, and we can change it later.
Right.
It's not forever, it's not forever. So if he gets better, we can, even though I knew that would never happen. And even if he had gotten better, best case scenario is we live next door to each other and raise our child together. But yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So what are the biggest things that you're taking away from today's episode?
I'm taking away, bring awareness to your behavior, how you got here, what you did, and what you do every day. And just note it, and note how you might change it to get out of your pattern. How about you?
Yeah. And I think that for me, I think the biggest thing that I'm taking away from today is, like you, it's the incremental step. If I can just create really spend the quiet time trying to figure out what it is that I want. And when I look at my life, what within that can I control? And to be married to the vision, but not to be married to the path. I mean, I am safe now. I'm very happily married, but I didn't have a clue that this was my path to get there. Do you have a topic for next week?
Yeah, I do. And it kind of just feeds into what you just said. I don't know what you're going to think about it, but I thought we might talk about what addiction has given us.
Oh, I like that.
What we've gotten from living this path that we've gone down.
Okay.
And I think both you and I can agree we never thought we'd be where we are right now.
Not at
At
all.
all. That wasn't my plan. I didn't have a plan.
All right. No, we didn't have
Yeah.
we didn't have a plan. All right. I love that. What addiction has given us. So
Mhm.
join us right back here next week for another episode of The Real Dope. And always remember, if you have questions, you have comments, please don't hesitate to reach out, because this is a show for you, the people who love, support, and quite frankly, just frickin' have to deal with addicts. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.